So this is an example of the differences that I have in the architecture. So right now what we see is we have this down here at the bottom, this black box. This is our application. And that black box can be whatever you want it to be. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to try to convince you if you're a .NET shop, stay a .NET shop. That's fine. If you're Java, if you're Ruby on Rails, Python, PHP, whatever it is, even if you're working in Perl, although I'd like to talk to you afterwards, but if you're still working in Perl, that's fine. I'd actually like some tips on how to read your code. Anyway, so you got this black box down here, and it can be whatever you want. And the only thing that I'm suggesting on top of it is that this black box doesn't do anything at all about the presentation of code. Doesn't ever see a markup tag, doesn't have any idea about the formatting of information, doesn't know what client is requesting it, whether it's a mobile browser or not. The only thing he concerns his job with is state management, talking to the database, representing the data. And he's going to represent that data in a very standard and portable format, JSON. So you're going to have a JSON API on top of your application. It becomes a headless application, if you will. Now, of course, that application API can be used by several different people. And I didn't draw the line because it would have been a little bit more confusing, but you can actually have a line from your JavaScript straight to your JSON API. So that's a great benefit. And a lot of applications bolt on a JSON API to what they already do. And I'm suggesting make that your primary communication interface with your application. But the new stuff is this stuff over here. This is the CVC stuff. And again, when I say new, I simply mean a slightly different way of looking at things. I'm certainly not trying to claim that I have found the MVC killer, but I think that I'm trying to solve some of the problems that traditional MVC implementations have. So the idea here is that you have a web server, and again, it can be whatever type of technology you want. It can be the traditional Apaches and Nginxes. It can even be some of the more far-reaching stuff we'll talk about in a little bit, like JavaScript-based web servers like Node.js. But it doesn't really matter what the web server is. His role is a very thin role. He just simply translates the protocol request and hands it off to the rest of the stack. Then we have these UI controllers, and we're going to get back to those here in a little bit. But the UI controllers are the things that handle all that URL routing, data validation, all of those things. And notice I've notated they're all written in JavaScript. The great part about this is the parts of this that also need to be portable and run in the browser, it's exactly the same code over here. So you can literally write your code once in JavaScript and have it run in both places. You might have to have a few little tweaked lines that are using your usage pattern on the server may be slightly different. But the actual core code for your data validation, we'll see in a moment, your data validation can be exactly the same on both client and server, and you've achieved the dry. You're also going to have you're going to have to deal with sessions and headers and cookies and all those things. So those things can happen in this layer. Traditionally, that happens down here in the application layer, and I'm suggesting that's UI architecture that should kind of be pushed up. And then the most important piece, it's kind of the smaller block just because I was running out of room, but the most important piece is this guy right here. And I want you to notice that I used a purple box for the view. It's written in JavaScript, and it's exactly the same here. So again, we get the portability that we have a view engine that is completely decoupled from our application. It's written in JavaScript, it's portable, and it'll run over in the browser, which is where we want it to run. So your controllers are responsible for when they receive a request. They make a request over here to the application. They say, we've had a request for something, and I need you, black box, to tell me what state does that put me in. Here's the data I received. Give me some data back. By the way, give that to me as JSON, because that's the thing that's most portable across all the layers that I want to go through. So this black box, this application is just going to respond with a response that says you are in state XYZ. And that state is purely just a made-up string representation of what state you're in. And it can be arbitrarily complex depending on how your application is. But if you think about it, your application truly is a state management machine. So all we're doing is formalizing the idea that you need to tell some other layer what state you're in based upon the request. And you are actually maintaining that state inside of here. So you know that if the user already visited the page, there's already a session started for them, and you're going to respond back with a new state when the second request from the same user comes in. You're going to respond back with that data to the UI controller layer, to the JavaScript. This guy's going to take that data, send it over to the view, and say, based upon the state that I'm in, and the data that the application gave me, give me the presentation view. So it's going to hand some JSON data to it. It's going to hand that arbitrary state representation to the template engine. The template engine knows which template or templates to pick because of that, and it sends it back. And this exact same process that I just described in the server can also happen in the client layer. When you're dealing with the Web 2.0 technology and you have people that are entering things into a form, you don't have to make a round trip all the way back to the server to ask it to do some more markup. And in fact, it's really important that you not do your views differently here than you do here so that we can achieve that dry. So if you can use exactly the same view logic and exactly the same templates in both places, you've achieved